People, welcome back to another episode of Investors Playbook Live. As always, you got your co-hosts Deshaun and Cornell. And as always, we got you when it comes to financial topics, news, and situations. So today, your boy is back at it again. All right. He's naming, or I guess pushing news that is rattling the stock market in a pretty heavy way. So yeah, we're gonna dive into something that happened this week, not too long ago, with Greenland. Um, Yeah, Cornell, go ahead. Give them the lowdown on what's going on, man.
So basically, Trump is talking about gaining control or access to Greenland, right? And when we say that, he's talking about imposing on territory and yeah, in their military for
Yeah,
power. My thing is, at random times, he's just doing random things, and it's like, man, what are the conversations like in the White House that are causing him to do all these seemingly random things that are affecting the stock market, people's investments, people's retirement in such a big way? And it's like, is this something that he's doing on purpose?
mm,
Is this something that he he just can't stay focused on one task? Like, what is really going on? So I think that's my question and what I like to talk more about in this episode.
yeah, no, 100%. And I'm in the same thought process. Is he even thinking about the stock market? Is that a concern of his, or are all of these actions strictly based on what he sees as a need for you know for politics, for the US, for growth, for expansion, and the stock market is just a bystander that gets affected because individuals react to his statements, right? I mean, it does seem a bit weird that he pushes narratives and then kind of changes that fairly quickly, right? And what we have seen is that the stock market moves. Ex- I'm not going to say it moves extreme, but there have been times where the market rattles based on his tweets, his headlines. Um, so we are seeing a bit of correlation. But I guess to your question, is that the purpose, right? Does it go? The president would like to rattle the market so he says something, or is it that the president is intending to expand, or he has a narrative he wants to push, and because of that the market is rattled? What comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the questions, right? But I mean, questions that we'll never know for real, you know what I mean? But I think the biggest thing is, how do individuals react, and how do we navigate? That's a better question. How do we navigate knowing that this is something that has happened in the past, just happened, and will probably happen sometime in the future, right?
I agree because
Yeah.
we're definitely seeing a pattern. And before we get into what people should do, I just kind of want to add context
Hmm.
to what happened to the market when he said these things. And yeah, so as a result, the U.S. stock indexes dropped sharply. S&P 500 fell 2.1%. The Dow Jones fell 1.8%, and the NASDAQ fell 2.4%. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but in one day, this is a huge move.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, just putting that into perspective. Now, I like to, speak about what people can do in these situations when these are such large moves, and it might add a little fear, well, a lot of fear, because there's so much uncertainty.
Yeah. And then I'm gonna actually double tap on what you just mentioned, right? We're saying these numbers, and it's funny because me and Cornell was just talking about how some individuals who are not even thinking about the stock market, who are not even looking at it, they wouldn't have even noticed what happened yesterday, right? It's those people who are watching their accounts move up and down, the ones who are whose finger were over like the sell or buy button. Those are the ones who really felt yesterday when really like, oh my gosh, what is happening? But going into what we're about to say, which is how do you navigate these random, I'll say, dips in the market, is one thing that has held true in stocks is that since creation, I'm talking about the S&P 500, since its existence, it has rebounded. Right now, it is sitting, I believe, let me double check and make sure, but if it's not at its all-time high, it just hit its all-time high like a month ago, right?
Ve-
Um, the S&P 500, the Nasdaq, all these stocks are doing amazing right now. So when we're talking about buying and holding, we're not talking about buying and holding and letting it go when something crazy happens. We're talking about locking in. You know what I mean? Like almost essentially forgetting that you made this investment because situations like yesterday, if you are paying attention, you might react and sell and potentially miss out on compound interest. So I'll caveat that and say we are not financial advisors. We are not your financial advisor. And you must do what's the most beneficial, way for you to navigate your funds. But what has worked for both me and my business partner is purchasing stocks and letting them compound, right? Weathering the storm, almost like tying yourself to the mast of the boat and just the storm's gonna happen. Cool. Once that's over, sunshine. But situations like yesterday really tell you what people's risk tolerance is and how they'll get rattled up and they'll make a move when then they're like, man, I probably shouldn't have sold, or they'll regret. You know what I mean? So, what do you think though, Cornell? What's some pieces of advice that you think people can kind of walk away with when it comes to handling, navigating, figuring out what to do when stuff like this happens?
I think it's a combination of what you said. Just not always watching what's going on. Just kind of be secure. Also, well, you know what? I think I take that back because you kind of got to know when these downturns come, because this is when you get more aggressive. This is when you
Mm.
buy more. You feel me?
Yes.
So
Okay. 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 I can peep that.
yeah,
I can rock with that. I can rock with that.
because I know like if you have a lump sum or you usually put in like 100 a check, but you see the market get hit heavy,
Mm-hmm.
you might want to put 150. You might want to put 200. So,
Yeah.
of course, you're always going to have more opportunity when you're paying attention. But it's not a bad thing to be hands off and just continue to invest. You put your money on auto invest. That's cool too.
Mm-hmm.
There are different strategies, but I think the biggest thing is don't give in to your fear. You see how the stock market has been running for its existence.
Yeah.
So yeah, just keep investing and invest in companies that are tried and true. Don't go invest in marijuana. And well, I'm not saying it might that might end up being a good investment. So let me not say that. But don't go invest in this no name company that no one knows about. And that's when you start losing. Like, yeah, you might hit it big, but it's like the lottery. Like there's a lot of stocks, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just be careful. But you can't go wrong with the tried and true. The things that if they go away, where our country is in danger, the world is in
The
danger.
world,
Like,
bro.
like
Yeah. I'm about to say.
for example, like Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia at this point, Amazon, Google, like the things that everyone uses, and it would change your life if it just went away.
Yeah. And and we can even go back in time and think of companies that we thought would never go away. I was listening to a podcast and this guy was like, Sears was like dominating for decades. No one thought Sears was gonna go away. But when you think about the product Sears, it's like, okay, they sell furniture, they sell household appliances. How replaceable is that? right? And now we live in this world of technology where people are utilizing the mess out of AI, but what is going to essentially power the future in the direction that we're going, right? And that is why tech is so on top. And you're seeing a lot of companies come out the woodwork and say, this is the new tech company that is, could potentially be the next Nvidia. People start talking about that, but I'm like, right now Nvidia has so much reach, right? If Nvidia does get overtaken, it won't be anytime soon. Nvidia has been around for decades, right? Same with Apple, same with Microsoft. And they're not all in the same realm. They're all in the same realm of technology, but their business model is different, right? They all produce some different form of technology that a lot of us use every single day. Like you said, if any of the Magnificent Seven decide to go away or go under, there would be a major shift in how we navigate just our everyday lives. When we see things like AWS, um, there's like a cyber issue with AWS, and now thousands of companies can't send emails or can't access their files. That's that shows you how important companies like Amazon is, and that's just an example. So yeah, to focus more on what you say, if you are always buying, look for companies that won't fizzle away.
Hmm.
Because when people say the stock market is like gambling, that they are halfway true. There are companies in the stock market that you can purchase that more or less have like a flip coin of you making money or not making money, or a dice roll. They don't have reputable numbers. They don't have the backing of, the time. For one, they don't have the amount of time spent in the market or in existence to say that they are reputable. That is when you get into the gambling, or yeah, the randomness of purchasing things like a penny stock, right? I remember I used to play penny stocks, and there were a lot more bad days. I'll just put it like that. There were a lot more days where I was disappointed in my returns than I was in those random days once or twice a year where the stock decided to go up 5 cents and I like double my money. But it's very rare, is what I'm saying. So yeah, when you're always buying, or if you're putting in money in the stock market on a consistent basis to remove yourself from that risk, purchase reputable companies. That's it. Because those are
Yeah.
the ones that when things rebound, they are going to rebound, right? Some of the smaller ones might get left behind. So yeah.
Because even in these like big mutual funds, ETFs, it's usually the tried and true companies that have the biggest holding that
Mhm.
influence that mutual fund the most. But if you want to be really safe, I suggest just investing in mutual funds.
Mhm.
Don't go the single stock route, because what if something does happen where, like, let's say AMD has some groundbreaking technology, and then now they overtaking Nvidia. If you're in a mutual fund that has all the semiconductors in it, you won't be affected as much. You'll
Yeah.
you'll still gain from AMD having that groundbreaking. You're not saying this is going to happen.
Right.
This is just
I'm
this
about to say, you know something I don't, brother.
this is just an example. So my thing is, if you don't want to constantly be doing research, constantly editing your portfolio, just get a mutual fund. Get mutual funds where they have fund managers that will do the work for you. As companies get better, they have more holding, more influence on the mutual fund. As they get worse, they have less influence because someone's managing that. So that's another strategy.
No, definitely, man. Mutual funds, index funds. I mean, your growth is not going to be as wild as, like, say you
Mhm.
invested all of your money into Nvidia, and then someone else invested all their money into the S&P 500. There's going to be a stark difference. But the level of risk that the person who put all their money in Nvidia is probably feeling or thinking is like there's no safety net there. right? Because, like you said, anything could happen. Yes, these companies are reputable and people trust them, but that does not mean that they are invincible. You know, they're
Mhm.
not. Yeah. So we base a lot of this information off of history, but history likes to, what they say, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. That's the thing that a
Mhm.
lot of people in the stock market world say. Um, yeah. And you've seen companies who people thought would not go away, would be here forever, are not here anymore.
Right.
So, yeah.
And if you're not paying
Um,
attention, you won't catch it, and your money will go with it. So,
yeah. And if you're not, well, yeah. And if you're not paying attention, if you want to continue not paying attention, just do like what Cornell mentioned, mutual funds. Even if you aren't paying attention, your fund manager is paying attention for you and they will adjust your holdings. So,
all right,
yeah,
agree.
yeah, man. All right, brother. Well, look, as always, we appreciate everybody for tuning in. I think the message for this is don't let psychology or don't let your emotions drive how you invest. All right, make sound decisions based off of your research, and of course, make safe decisions based off of your current financial situation. That's the most important thing. Uh, but yeah, anything you want to leave him with, Cornell?
Nah, y'all just keep learning and growing. That's all we can do.
Peace. All right, y'all. As always, again, appreciate y'all. We out here. Peace.
Peace.